There has been news from the Darklands, from Grimgor.
Oh? What does the overgrown green bully have to say now? Has he marched on London yet? I believe it was a campaign promise.
Apparently he has decided not to. Instead, he gave a rousing speech to millions of greenskins thanking Creative Assembly for what they've achieved for his race. He commends them on a job well done.
What? They buffed him, didn't they?
Yes.
Are they utterly mad? The single greatest threat to the entire world in the Darklands, the greatest empire builder in the campaign, and they made him stronger?
They had no choice, I think. The polls showed the Greens were going to win the next election, and the last thing the world needed was for Grimgor to win.
Oh dear, we're screwed. We are so very screwed.
Come on, Luther. There's 3 legendary lords around him, and the Chaos Dwarves have 2 endgame armies with a Tier 5 capital next to him. Even he couldn't possibly win.
Are you sure about that?
Fuck!
Welcome everyone, Costin here with Grimgor Ironhide. Is turn 11 of his campaign, legendary difficulty. I've got 35,000 gold in the bank, thanks to the Chaos Dwarves, who were just so gracious to throw themselves against Grimgor and think they could win. They were very wrong on that subject. And a Cathayan caravan that made the mistake of wandering in my territory next to Grimgor, directly next to Grimgor over here in Black Fang. I am faction strength number 1 over here. And although I almost bankrupted myself several times doing this, I've become the dominant empire in the world. I think Grimgor finally is the best. Genuinely so. I genuinely think that at this point, if you play him properly, if you abuse his mechanics, or not even abuse, if you just play him properly, he becomes the strongest and most powerful empire that any player can achieve in a campaign. There's a couple of reasons behind this. His start position was moved over here to the Eagle Eateries. It starts as a tier 2 settlement. That means you can get nasty skulkers within 2 turns. That means you can get trolls very, very quickly in this campaign. And those trolls, which I have right over here in my second army, are going to be pretty useful. They unfortunately removed the landmark from Saber Mountain. I'm not sure if that's an oversight or not, but it doesn't matter at all. I didn't even have to fight Kolek for this province because I just defeated the faction leader of the Greenskins he starts a war with and then forced the Confederation. Now look at me. I have a full stack over here just ready to attack Drazov once Grimgor is finished with Tsar Nagrund, which he will in just a short moment. You might ask, how would you do this? How could you possibly go about doing this? The question isn't how. The question is, why wouldn't you do this? It's a tier 5 capital. Gorf the Cruel is not a legendary lord. He's a minor lord. He starts at, what, rank 1? So he doesn't have a lot of benefits to his army. His army is an endgame army, absolutely. He's got hell cannons, he's got centaurs, it's all that. But without the lord effects to support that army, he's just meat to Grimgor. And since this is, by the way, since Tsar Nagrund, at the start of the game starts as strength rank number 1, that situation has been reversed, as is all proper. When you declare a war on them, and if you achieve that success in the war, you get the biggest benefit from the war trophy. In this case, I'm going to get minus 20% construction cost and 12 weapon strength. Yeah. Grimgor has reached Valhalla, if you will. He is so absurd right now. He can be so very absurd that no other legendary lord, I think, comes even close to his campaign potential. Just the idea alone of taking over a settlement that's tier 5 and you occupy and loot, you should not sack it. That would be a waste of it. But taking it as a tier 4 settlement, occupy and loot it, 1, it will give you a biblical amount of money, especially as the Greenskins could get so much money in their campaign it's not even funny. 2, it will unlock all hero recruitment, pretty much all unit recruitment, will give you a vast and powerful economy. And then, no one can stand up to you. Genuinely. Like, once I'm finished over here, I'm going to pay a visit to Astrogoth and take his province. And then march over here to the west to get Azak and get his territory. and other territories as well. I have said that Grom and Azag are better legendary lords. I mean, don't get me wrong, Grimgor has always been powerful, but it's like the benefit with Azag is you could confederate Grimgor. Well, after Grimgor builds a massive empire, well, now just play Grimgor, build a massive empire, and get Azag very quickly, and then get Skarsnik before he gets wiped out. Unleash the green tide on the world, and no one will stop you. But how do you go about doing this? Let's talk about this. Alright, so let's look at Grimgor's campaign from his start position. His capital is the Eagle Ares. It's a tier 2 minor settlement with the barracks. That means you can start recruiting nasty skulkers, and you can also start recruiting trolls within 3 turns. That in itself is a very significant advantage. Nasty skulkers are really good against heavily armored units, which the Chaos Dwarves do have, and trolls are pretty good siege breakers. You don't even need to use necessarily this nasty skulker bug, really, or abuse to win the siege of Zarnagrund. You can do it. You can do it with just trolls, assuming you bait the armies out of here with Gorf the Cruel, who, as stated, he starts rank 1. If you bait these armies in an ambush, or if you put yourself in a camp stance and then declare war on them, they'll come for you. But since you're in a camp stance or an ambush stance, you will gain the advantage in the battle. That's how you defeat that situation. But to defeat them, you're going to need multiple armies, and WAs as well. So you need to fight a lot of battles, get the WA meter up, declare a WA, maybe have it going for a couple of turns so you can get the WA units, though. They're chaff. They're not necessarily too important. So how do you go about it? Well, you go defeat this army, you take Gorge Rock on turn 1. And then you recruit a lot of Goblin Archers in the initial turn. Every greenskin settlement increases your local recruit capacity by 1. So over here, you're going to have a recruit capacity of 4. That's where you'll be at turn 2 with a bunch of Goblin Archers. Then you move Grimgor over here, you recruit more Goblin Archers, or you start recruiting a second army right from the get-go over here. Or you could wait on that. But you look at this particular faction, he is full thief over here. He starts right next to Blizzard Peak. Now, and he's at war with Kolic. Now, he's likely going to try and fortify the settlement. That's exactly what you want over here. You want to defeat him. You want to confederate him. Hell, you might even want to let his army get away on the field of battle, because you can get his armies when you do confederate him. Personally, I just annihilate them and just move on, really. But you do want to confederate them so you can get Ice Pure and you can get Blizzard Peak. And that way you avoid fighting Kolic. Kolic will not attack Saber Mountain. And you may want it, though unfortunately the removal of the landmark is a bit of a downside. And what do you do after that? Well, Grimgor, in that situation, right, once you've taken Blizzard Peak, Grimgor will be here. So you then march to deal with the ogres. Keep recruiting units. Keep getting as many units. Local recruitment, generally you'll have enough local recruitment capacity. And after 2 turns, you'll be able to get nasty skulkers. After 3 turns, you'll be able to get trolls. You want to get 4 trolls and as many nasty skulkers as you can, and as many goblin archers as you can. You take Karak Vrag, you deal with the ogre camp here. Like, your second army should be, you should start recruiting it from Gorge or Rock. And they should be able to deal with this camp on their own if you build enough units for it. And then you take Black Fang. At this point, you should be able to get your quest battle. With that quest battle, you can get a lot of money, which you will need. And also, you will get his weapon, which you'll also want. Gitsnik, for the combat ability that it gives you. Like, Grimgor is pretty substantial without it even, but the quest battle itself, like, against an entire army of nasty skulkers and goblin archers and maybe some trolls, the Empire and Dwarves that show up in that battle will not stand a chance against you. Now, crucially, since the battle takes place here, you'll get vision on this campaign map, so you can gain some money by trading with Barak Var and the Border Princes by declaring war on the factions that they start at war with. They're not going to bother you in your campaign. You might also get Kafan caravans to show up as well. Now, you do have 3 legendary lords, and they all hate you over here. Well, you have... Kolic doesn't really hate you, but you do need to do something to keep him pleased in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, once you've built 2 full stacks and declared the Wa on Gorf the Cruel, you go deal with him. Ideally, you ambush him or you use in camp stance, because you can switch in camp stance with no real movement penalty as the greenskins. That's an important factor to always keep in mind as the greenskins. And in camp stance, if we look at encamp stance, it gives you leadership and melee defense, which is going to be useful to deal with all the powerful units that Gorf and Syra will throw against you, because both of them are likely going to come against you. Then you lay siege to Zarnagrun. There's various strategies. You can either besiege it for a couple of turns, or besiege it to an army and hope that they come out to be annihilated, which absolutely you could annihilate the garrison over here. 20 units, it doesn't matter. If the armies here have been eliminated, it's no problem. You could also cheese it with nasty skulkers, like you can move Grimgor basically within a sight of Zarnagrun, then declare a war on this, then besiege the settlement, win it, and eliminate Gorf the Cruel's army, which is the more substantial army, and that would just leave Syra to deal with, and then you just conquered the province. After that particular point, well, let's just look at the victory conditions. You need to take over some of the settlements over here, but that's really not any substantial issue to deal with. And long campaign victory conditions just eliminate the minor greenskin factions, which are going to die out on their own. So you don't really care about victory conditions. You want to pay a visit to Astrogov. He is going to have multiple stacks, and he's actually going to have a decent amount of power behind him. But take him out. He's not going to have the powerful units, but he's obviously going to have proper skills. Then move over here, take the Silver Pinnacle, and go against Azag. Then go against the Dwarves, get Skarsnik, or help Skarsnik even to some degree against the Dwarves. And so once Skarsnik does start building a massive empire, because Skarsnik, if you help him in some way, and this is the case in Azag's campaign as well, if you help Skarsnik, he can gain a lot of territory, and then you can just show up and beat the crap out of him and get that entire empire for yourself, while you're building an empire over here in the Darklands. And the Mountains of Morn as well, of course. To keep Kolek happy, I would probably go to war against Zaytan and wipe him out, and give the Granite Spikes and the Valerie to Kolek, and you can get a good, strong ally with Kolek through that particular decision. I mean, Kolek's already going to appreciate the fact that you are you are at war with the Tusk Sons. Dealing with the Tusk Sons is not important for their territory. It's important just to get Grimgor higher levels, to get more money, and also, you know, to give you a recruitment spot when you do eventually go against Astrogov. Because if you have a full stack here and moving your 2 full stacks over here, which you absolutely can achieve, doesn't matter how good Iron Hand is, he's not going to be able to stand up to that. And then after that, well, it's up to you. I personally don't enjoy going after the Castaways, though there is some benefit in the Valerie. Holy shit, is there a benefit in the Valerie? Minus 15% upkeep. That is substantial as the greenskin. So you might want to take it for yourself. Though that means Kolek is not going to be a friend. But still, there's benefits in going for that, really. Significant benefits if you do decide to do that. Just bear in mind that you're likely going to end up at war with Village. Or you could take the Foothills yourself and then take Ironstorm and then sell that to Village or Village's vassal, depending on which territory Village has taken. And that will put you on a stable situation. Or just wipe out Village, really. Though, obviously, the Castaways land is an unpleasant territory. So, minus 15% upkeep for Goblin units faction-wide. Do you even need it? Not really, but it would make it more substantial. Like, step aside, Skarsnik. Grimgor has the true Goblin armies right now. It is quite a hilarious situation that we now encounter in Grimgor's campaign. And yeah, then take the Darklands and then do whatever you want, really. It doesn't matter. Like, if you can take Zarnagrund in the early game, it doesn't matter what else you do in the campaign. You've won the campaign, more or less. No one will stop you after that particular point. You would have to screw up in such a royal fashion that it would be a biblical screw-up, suffice to say. So yeah, Grimgor, he's now the best. Genuinely so. The sheer potential this guy has in his campaign from the early game is ridiculous. He can become the strongest faction in the game. He may not have the armies like Draika has. Doesn't matter. He can throw 6 full stacks at Draika. No one can stand up to 6 full stacks. Doesn't matter how powerful they are. Even Draika would bend the knee to that particular situation. So it's up to you what you do decide to do in the long term. There is a benefit in Pig Barter if you do decide to take it over here. If you do decide to come all the way down here, of course. Also, there is a benefit in the Skaven's territory over here as well. And as well as some other benefits along the way. And that's it. Grimgor is now the best. Costin signing out.